All right. Getting ready to start a new lesson on this evening. The title of this lesson would be Envy. Though I give the lesson a title, there's a few things that I will be going over other than that. So without further ado, I'm going to start this lesson off in Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 24. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world, and they that do hold of his side do find it. Okay, so the first thing we want to ask ourselves is this. Through envy of the devil came death into the world. Now the word envy, to start things off, the word envy means to desire another's possessions, qualities, etc. So if you sitting up here desiring what somebody else got, as far as their possessions, their belongings, and even the qualities about that particular individual, traits and stuff like that, that's envy. You wanting what that person has, what you see. And a lot of times that envy really kick in when they see it and they can't have it, or they can't obtain it in no way, in no form or fashion. That's really when that envy demon gets it going. So through envy of the devil. So we know envy is to desire another possessions, qualities, etc. So through envy of the devil. So we already know that the word devil means deceiver. So the deceiver of the planet would be Esau, or more commonly known as Caucasian, or the white man. That's the devil where the envy is derived from, or what it's referring to. Nevertheless, through envy of the devil, or because people desired to possess what the deceiver had, probably something he stole. Because people desire to have what the deceiver have, that's how the death came into the world. And there's two forms of death. One form of death is ignorance. There may be other forms of death, but two forms of death that I'm referring to right now. One would be the spiritual aspect of it, which is ignorance, not knowing. That's death, because death is considered as darkness. Darkness is considered as ignorance. And ignorance comes from not knowing. That's the spiritual aspect of it. To be spiritually dead is to be ignorant, or to not know something very particular. That's death, or darkness. And once you know it, that's life, or you can say light. So one form of death is ignorance, not knowing. The same way you buy a pack of ground beef, you open up the package, you cook it and eat it without really knowing what animal that meat came off of. Devil means deceiver. So he could have cut that meat off of a dog, packaged it up, and call it beef. That's ignorance. That's death. Spiritually. Now we all know what the physical aspect of death is. You know, or its equivalent. So the physical aspect of death is to be deceased, you know, or a body, a dead body. That's the physical. And most of the time, the spiritual death occurs, then the physical death happens. The spiritual death being the ignorance. You get to a level so high up in a level of ignorance to where you are considered as spiritually dead. Your level of ignorance reaches a level so high to the point where you actually considered as being spiritually dead. And if this place is a place for people that are spiritually dead, and once you die spiritually, you're not too far. The physical death is really not that far off. Spiritually dead just means completely ignorant, or just in complete darkness as to what's going on. Not able to receive the truth even if it was brought to you in your face, because of that darkness that's blinding you. The Most High is particularly, purposely blinded the minds of those that believe not. So if you don't believe, He gonna automatically blind you to the truth. Meaning what? There's nothing nobody can do to convince you that that's true, because you've been brought up in a system based on lies. And you not being able to be convinced of the truth was purposely done by the Most High. He purposely blocked and darkened the minds of those that He know they're not gonna believe. So those are the two aspects of death. So through envy of the devil came death into the world. That's talking about both, because you're gonna have your ignorance, your spiritual death, and then your physical death. So through desiring this beast's possessions and qualities, etc., it brings forth death, or ignorance, or darkness. So, and that's big and popular and common amongst the Hebrew nation today. They desire the devil's possessions and qualities. You got some jakes, they actually want their hair straight and brown like the devil. They want their skin real bright. They want to ride in these new cars. So it's just like how Satan do. They want these $200,000 a year jobs and all that, and stuff you don't really need. I'm gonna go buy me 5 boats, 5 this, 5 that, just to sit it. Just for it to sit and rust. Now, if that's what you want to do, hey, But if you can't afford to do it and you sitting up here desiring this devil's stuff, that's envy. And that's what's going to bring forth death into your world. That's where the death comes in. The ignorance. Before you know it, you will become completely ignorant following this damn devil. Because you see, but right now, a lot of Jakes, they're in darkness or they're in ignorance. Just mean they don't know. They've never been told. You cannot know something you have never been told. Now, the Most High can give you so many clues to where you better figure it out. The Most High can set it up to where you have all the pieces of the puzzle. All you got to do is put it together. You see, because before, we Jakes knew all things. That's why the scriptures say Jacob is the former of all things. Because before we knew all things, man, it wasn't a damn thing we didn't know. But because of the envy of the possessions of the devil, death entered into the world. That ignorance crept in. And before you know it, Jake has become completely ignorant, man. That envy has caused Jake to become completely ignorant on very important stuff about what's going on. You will find death if you hold to the side of this devil, you see. Through envy of the devil came death into the world. And they that do hold of his side do find it. So if you trying to hold on to this system, you see how big of a scam it is. Ponzi scheme. They're just trying to see how they can benefit off of you and get the most work out of you for the less possible pay. If the Most High said my yoke is easy and my burden is light, the opposite is true for Satan or the devil. His yoke is hard and his burden is heavy. He's the opposite of the Most High. That's why he's Antichrist. He's everything opposite of Christ. Now you see how that ignorance can creep in? That ignorance can creep in very quick. If you desiring any of this devil's dainties, possessions, or qualities, that ignorance will find a way through. That ignorance will find a way in. If you're following this beast. If there was never no envy of the devil, death would have ignorance and death would have never came into the world. So what that mean? If you can eradicate the envy, you can probably eradicate the death as well. But you see, the Most High is in charge of all these events and sequence of events that's going on right now. So that should let you know that the Most High is the one that caused Jake to go off through envy of the devil. It could, it could be a favorite dish. It could be a particular car, a fancy house, some type of jewelry or material of some sort. The Most High is letting you know that. That's why everybody is so ignorant and dropping like flies. that envy. This is directly stating that envy brings forth ignorance. That's pretty much a direct statement there. Envy is nothing more than an introduction to ignorance. It almost leads me to believe you must learn ignorance before you can learn common sense, or you must learn ignorance before you can learn or become a genius, or knowing all things as we did before. You must learn ignorance before intelligence. Is what I'm receiving through the Spirit. If envy brings forth ignorance, then the opposite must bring forth intelligence. And the Lord said, if you follow His devil long enough, you're gonna wind up finding that ignorance, which will inevitably cause you to become ignorant. Just meaning not knowing. And it is better to know it and not need to use it than to not know it, in which you had a. Okay, now let's move over here to James 3:16. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. Okay, so where there is ignorance. Okay, let's see. We know what envy is. That's ignorance. Okay, now strife. The word strife just means disagreement, rivalry, disputings, conflict. It's a problem. It's all bad. Stuff like that. Say envy brings forth that ignorance. So once that ignorance get here, it said where envying and strife is, for where ignorance and disagreement is, there is confusion. You know, that should be pretty much able to figure out, you know what I mean? You should be able to pretty much figure that out right there. So that possession brings forth that ignorance, because that's envy. So that possession brings forth that ignorance, and that ignorance is then joined with strife or disagreement. That ignorance and that disagreement is almost like it work hand in hand. It almost like it is one. It can't have one without the other, or one leads to the other. So where there's envy and strife is, where ignorance and disagreement, or where ignorance and rivalry, conflict is, there is confusion. You see? So that ignorance and that conflict, it brings forth that confusion. And we all know what happens once that confusion kicks in. As soon as that confusion, that's considered as the beast. You see, that ignorance and that conflict, or that envy and that strife, that triggers the beast, because that gets people to start talking and stating their opinions, and then they start having these disagreements and these rivalries. You see, first it's the ignorance. That ignorance leads to that disagreement, that strife, or that disputing. And then once they start disputing, behind that ignorance, the confusion kicks in. That's called the beast, or the beast gets triggered. And then once the confusion kick in every evil work, there's confusion in every evil work. Or that's when they start throwing blows. So you have your envy, which is your ignorance. You have your strife, which is your disagreement, your rivalry, your disputings, and your conflicts. Then you have your confusion, which is the beast. And then once that beast get triggered, you got every evil work. That's the stabbing, the shooting, the stomp out, the knockout, all of it. So that envy, and then that evil work that's the death. So we go back here to Wisdom of Solomon. Through envy of the devil came death into the world. And that's how that did, and that's the death right there, the evil work. Every evil work. You know, some of those evil works bring forth death. Like a stabbing or a shooting, you know what I mean? Or something equivalent. And they who hold to his side do find it. So if you follow this beast, you're going to get that envy and that strife. You're going to get that ignorance and that conflict. And if you follow that beast and hold to his side, you're going to get that confusion. That's the beast right there, that confusion. Because when two people have a disagreement and they're confused, they already arguing, and now it's confusion. It's almost like it only one way to settle it, and that's the evil work. So if you hold to this devil's side, you're gonna find that evil work, which is that death. Hope you gained something from the lesson. You're gonna find that death if you're holding on to that evil. If you're holding on to that ignorance, that envy, that evil work. Hope you gained something from the lesson. Until next time, may God bless.